Ho, ho, hello.
Very nice.
Luke Riley here with Cam Shea.
Hey, Luke.
And this is the review commentary for Dirt Rally. Sorry, it's late in the year. It's dropped kind of late.
Yeah, but it's been in early access for a while now. So you've been playing this game for a while.
I've been in and out of it since like April or whenever it came out, and then it suddenly dropped in December when everyone thought they were finished work. And now it's done, so I had to sort of play it now, really get stuck in.
Oh,
which
you poor bugger.
Which I have. And the good news is, it's utterly brilliant. It's an excellent, excellent rally game. It's easily Codemasters' greatest rally game to date.
Fantastic.
Personally, my favourite Codemasters racing game, easily in the last decade.
Wow.
My sentimental favourite is BS Supercars 3 from way back in the day. But this is an utterly brilliant racing game from Codemasters, and they really nailed the right kind of attitude, they're really moving in the right direction with their racing games. I think if this is any indication, it looks great. It sounds absolutely incredible. Personally, I think it's the best sounding racing game I've ever played.
Wow.
Yeah, just the richness and all these sounds and it's like this symphony of noise when you're inside the cabin of these cars. There's one particularly later on during this footage, but like there's all these squeaks and vibrations, and every time the revs get really high, the car starts buzzing as it's like, you know, the engine's got straining against its mouth. There's squeaking brakes. There's like it's just crazy. The sound is incredible. So yeah, whoever did the sound for this gets an extra long Christmas holiday, according to me. But no, man, like it's easy. It's also easily the best serious rally game since 2004's very highly lauded Richard Burns Rally, which is still played today by hosts of people who mod it consistently every year. But no, man, I really enjoyed it, and I'm continuing to enjoy it. I played it both with the Thrustmaster TX, which we have in the office, which is a great wheel, and I really enjoy using it.
Which you have mounted in like a homemade kind of cockpit
Very
style.
homemade, but very
like
functional.
a proper bucket seat. Just to, so you can picture it.
But we're lucky enough also to have the standalone shifter, which I think I told you the other day that I turned onto analog mode, which we can now use it as a handbrake. So you kind of yank the handbrake to get the tail out. But I also played it with the controller extensively as well, and I'm really, really pleased with how it feels on a controller.
Especially for a hardcore game like this, where
this is a huge risk.
You expect it to feel amazing with a wheel.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it has to work for a controller.
Oh, it has to. I mean, let's be realistic. It has to work for far more people with a controller than it does for the wheel.
Yep.
Especially with the costs of the wheels. But no, I guess what I want to stress is this: what we're watching here, this mini in Finland. It actually is. This was a cut down version of my first stage win, which took me many hours to attain. And that's one of the things I kind of appreciate most about the game, is that it doesn't tolerate any timidness.
Yep.
It just wants you to get better.
Yep.
If you're not good enough for it, its only advice, and potentially slightly to its detriment, its only advice is just get faster and be less of a baby. Basically.
I must say, I heard a lot more swearing coming from our game loft during your kind of review playthrough of this game than with other racing games that you reviewed this year.
Well, Codemasters are obviously, they're quite famous for their signature flashback mechanic, which has been a part of their games for quite some time now. Now, this game does not feature that, and it does not feature it very deliberately, and it's something that I totally appreciate and I totally understand, and I don't want it.
Yeah.
Because it makes the game, it increases the risk, and thus increases the reward. So when you do nail a stage, you get everything right, you are rewarded with that really, exciting stage win. You're like, all those green segments, you're like, yes, 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 yes. Staying ahead of the competition.
And you have to know your car's handling, you have to understand the pace notes, you have to have a rudimentary knowledge at least of the course ahead of you. Like, there's so many things that have to come together to nail a stage, right? And that's called having a learning curve, a steep learning curve.
It's steep,
that's
but
very,
it
very
is
rewarding.
yeah. So yeah, and you do the pace notes are very good. And yeah, once those things all start to click, you do become faster and faster, and it happens. It's like the hour hand on a clock. All of a sudden, you just realize that, I'm closer and closer to these opponents' times, or suddenly you're like, I'm ahead of these guys.
Yep.
You don't feel like you've turned any sort of drastic corners.
Yep.
You don't feel like something's just like suddenly clicked in your brain. You're like, now I go fast now.
Yeah, it's accelerator pedal.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought of it.
But it's this, you just kind of start to realize, I can just be a little bit more aggressive on this corner. I don't have to brake here. I'll just get the car a little more sideways and sort of use the lateral forces on the tyres to sort of wash off some speed. This is a great state. Wales is actually Finland is probably my favourite country. Wales a close second, with all the thick gravel and heaps of water splashes, which we'll see in a moment. I chose hopefully someone at Codemasters remembers this, I chose the Say It kit car because of the classic screenshot that made me want to buy a PlayStation in the very first place, on the back of the original Colin McRae.
Sure.
With a really primitive water splash. You'll see it's actually just coming around this bend. The water splash effects in this game, which I've mentioned before, incredible.
Very nice.
Incredible. Almost as incredible as the sound. But like there's a lot to like about this game. It's got 39 different vehicles.
Yep.
Covering the most iconic rally cars. Pretty much everything you'd want, with the exception of Toyota, who I imagine are being, I don't know, curmudgeons. Because they've got everything else. They've got Audi and Subaru and Ford. And
but you were saying that you have to grind a bit to unlock cars.
That is
so
where I was
racing
headed.
For
so
a team,
basically, my chief criticism, I guess, of Dirt Rally is that it goes back to that really old school car PG, Gran Turismo kind of deal where you've got to grind out your career races to build some cash and then to buy a car. And personally, honestly, it's quite surprising to me because I feel like, because Codemasters, their last sort of serious racing game, Grid Autosport, was entirely unlike that. It was a real driver for hire kind of style thing where you get offers from teams, you drive their cars in a championship, and then you move on.
Yep.
So there is a bit of grinding involved, which I didn't love. So I know
it definitely seems at odds with the fact that
it's such a serious
reward,
game.
Yeah, it's such a serious game, and the reward is getting better at the gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need a material reward. It should just be you have to master all the different cars, and that's something that's a challenge in and of itself.
Yeah. So I think that's its biggest weakness, and that's the part that sort of drags this game down just a little in my mind. But technically, it's incredible. It's a huge amount of fun. Rallycross, which we're seeing here, is which I was explaining to you, Cam, on another occasion, is a great format, and it suits this game perfectly. And you'll know, I don't know whether you saw in the first lap, I had to do the Joker lap, which is the sort of the extension of the track, which takes slightly longer to complete. Leave these two guys ahead of me are doing that now, so now I'm going to pull in front of them. But these cars are incredible, and they're a huge amount of fun to drive because they have just so much power. And it's these cars and on this tarmac surface that you really appreciate the differences between some of the cars that Dirt Rally has. Like that Mini is a car that you really have to get up to speed in and try to keep as much speed as possible because it's very old and it's not that fast. These cars, they do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2 seconds. And so when you plant the throttle in these cars, they just squat down on their rear springs and they just burst off the line. It's crazy. And it's a huge amount of fun, so you got to get into these big drifts and you're kind of balancing the throttle and the steering and all this kind of stuff. So it's a huge amount of fun. This represents sort of, I guess, one of the tiers. There's Rallycross, there's Hill Climb, which is there's Pikes Peak, and then there's the traditional rallies, which we get at Germany, Sweden, Monaco, and all that kind of stuff. I gave it 8.9. I enjoyed it immensely. I'm going to continue enjoying it. But yeah, I'm just a little bit surprised about the career mode. Just feels a little phoned in.
Yeah, We've got so much else right.
But yeah, for everything else on everything else with four wheels, stick with IGN.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, Cam.